Crap. I'm late. I did it. Every now and again, I have to be late to show you how much on time I am all the time, except when I'm not. People, what a freaking day. I mean, I say what a day, and it's not because I have made myself emotionally invested and like attached um, personal emotions in this case, which makes it more meaningful to me. It's not like this is something that is important to me or impactful to me. This is just a day where you follow a story from day one to what is ultimately V-Day, verdict day. And it's mind-blowing that justice was served in that an injustice was not committed on verdict. But as far as the process goes, as far as the 14 months of hell that this kid went through, as far as the months in jail, as far as the costs, as far as the stress, as far as the misrepresentations, the media lies, after all that injustice, justice was served by not having further injustice in an obviously what would have been wrongful conviction, given the evidence that we have all now seen. Okay, I think we actually have people who are coming. I see people in the backstage, so I was going to do a little intro. I don't know who's Cool Breeze. I know I only sent the link out to 3 people, so it can only be one of 3 people. Cool Breeze. I see Nate. Can Nate hear me? Is my volume no good? Okay. So before I bring Nate in, because Nate Brody's in, Cool Breeze. Oh, I see. Cool Breeze might have been Nate as well. Robert, I don't think is coming in. I haven't heard from him, so we'll see. Robert goes live with not News with Booze, but rather Bourbon with Barnes on our locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to not overlap with Robert. But man, what a day. But it's a day of justice in a sense, and then it's a day of injustice, because if nobody's following the QAnon shaman story, that was the vlog I just put out this afternoon. 41 months in jail. 41 months in jail. We're going to talk about it. Okay, so before, standard disclaimers. I'm not going to get to all the super chats. So if you're going to be miffed if I don't get to them, don't give it. I don't like people feeling miffed. YouTube takes 30%. If you want to support us, we are live streaming on Rumble simultaneously. Rumble Rants has these Rumble Rants, like whatever. 20% goes to Rumble, 80% to the creator. So you can feel good supporting a creator, yada, yada, and supporting a company. Rumble is very good. Punctuality is the virtue of the board. Touche. I'll use that the next time I'm late. Okay, let's just get a few of these before I bring Nate in, and we're going to go through this. Anyone else still tear up every time they watch Kyle's reaction to the verdict? It's funny. He didn't collapse or crumble until the 3rd acquittal, where I think he knew he was clear on all of them, because there was a fear that, he could have been found clear on one, but not on the others. Essex. Okay, let me just bring these up and we'll do this. The process is the punishment. The kid will have this following him for the rest of his life, both PTSD and reputation. Well, nothing could have been done about the PTSD part, because that was the event itself. But the distrust in the institution, the distrust in the system will linger with him forever. Okay, I see Nate. Let's get Nate in here. When is Robert going to take on Kyle's civil suit? Oh, we'll get there. He was lied and smeared in the media to an unbelievable extent by you know what? It's a good segue. By none other than Bill the Liar de Blasio. Little Rock in the house. Thanks for answering my email. Thank you for the email, Little Rock. I know you get thousands, and I really appreciate it. Now you know my real name. I will not divulge it. Your secret is safe with me. And yes, I get a lot of emails, so I want everyone out there not to be offended if I don't respond to an email, but I do my best. But it's impossible. It's impossible. I just hope that he and his family have some semblance of a normal life. I think Kyle is destined for greatness. I'm going to call it now. And I see a new member in the house, Richard Lorbieski. I like your avatar. Okay, with that said, I'm going to get Nate in here. We're going to start from day one, because we've been in this from day one. Gentlemen, we've won the battle, not the war. Keep your head up and keep moving. Well, when we talk about the QAnon shaman, we'll talk about it. Nate, either my internet might be slow or you are extremely pixelated.
No.
But it doesn't. Can I hear you?
I am here. I believe you cannot hear me?
No, I can hear you now.
You should be able to hear me. All right.
How do we find the audio levels? Let me know if I need to bring up Nate. I don't know.
All
how
right.
know how to do this. Holy cow.
No, I should be good. I'm looking at my audio levels now. I should be good. Today was a big. Today today we should just call today Justice Day. We have to call today Justice Day because the Ahmaud Arbery case just really was ended today too. So it's Justice Day today,
so
baby.
you know what? Let's start with Ahmaud Arbery because I have not been following it, as we say in French, en diagonale, like just barely.
Well, I got a video in the queue ready to go out as soon as we get finished with this. But go ahead, finish what you were saying. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, no. So tell us what happened. Give us the rundown. Then we're going to get into the
All right. So remember in the Arbery case, the Arbery case essentially ended today with the directed verdict of guilty on all counts. Now, there's the formality of giving it to the jury, but the case essentially ended today on the law. The defense attorney had admitted, and the defense had admitted, they conceded the point that the crime didn't occur in their presence, right? It didn't occur in their presence. It occurred 11 days ago. The felony of burglary. So we're granting that they was in a felony. Today, the judge ruled that based on the case law in Georgia, the law demands that even if a felony was committed, and that let's say if it was committed 11 days ago, and you didn't arrest the person then you could not legally arrest the person in Georgia. So you had to arrest them at the time. And if you didn't arrest them at the time, then you can't arrest them 10 days later. Matter of fact, you couldn't even arrest them the next day. And the escape piece of it.
Can you lower your volume just a touch? I've turned my mic up, but turn yours down, and then just a touch. See
got it.
People
it's
in
down.
The chat. Okay, good. Okay, so
right.
So carry on.
Go ahead.
So they said that even if you know that he committed the crime, but it was not contemporaneously with the citizen's arrest, that's a no-go?
Correct. So the defense attorney now has, all right, you know what? Let me play this for you. Here, okay. I'm going to share my screen to show you how bad it was. This is what the defense says. Hold on, let me play it.
And while you get that, I'm going to bring up this chat, which says, I supported BLM from the beginning. If I had not watched the trial and listened to your analysis, I would have believed the media narrative. Grateful for you and all the other lawyers who analyzed the trial and helped us know the truth. Our pleasure, Bethany Gal W.
Oh, I do want to say I tweeted out the link by accident. I was trying to tweet out something else. So if you have any crazy people come in, you know why. It's because I had a boomer moment. I tweeted out the link on a boomer moment. So I'm like, oh my God.
Don't worry about it. But why would you have said that, Nate? Anyways, we can only hope
but it locks it out though, and it only acts so nobody can get in here unless you allow them in. So booty banger special and all that. That is not me. That's somebody else. Like there was a Cool Breeze. I think Cool Breeze got the link, but it was out so quick though.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. Are they saying no, I'm not. Okay, I think everything's good. Volume's good. People tell me if it's not. Okay, so this is interesting, and I'm not going to, this is not a question of being right or wrong, but this was my concern from the beginning, is that it was a suspicion, even if it's the individual they had thought they had seen burglarizing the neighborhood under previous days, it doesn't justify getting pickup trucks and getting whatever guns they had and trying to make an arrest then and there. So are they getting, or did they get the directed verdict?
Hold on. Say it one more time.
Oh, did they in fact get the directed verdict, or is it?
No, it's more of a formality. I have it right here. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I was scrubbing for it while I was talking to you, but so here's essentially the case over.
Your image is coming out better now.
All right, cool. I'm surprised my image.
Do I have to share the screen?
You have to share the screen, yeah.
Share. This is going to be scary, people. Share screen, and I go to Windows or Chrome tab. I go to Chrome tab, Nate.
Yes. So you go down to Chrome to where it says share screen, and then you just see my screen, a little screen with the judge on it. It says Nate the lawyer. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Okay, add to screen. Dude, if you give me a strike, Nate, we are no longer friends.
Oh, it's the judge. Oh, but matter of fact, unshare the screen right now. Unshare the screen again.
Okay.
Click on stop. Now click on share screen again. Now when that dialog box comes up, there should be something that says share audio at the bottom to make sure you share the audio. Do it again. So you just make sure you. All right. So and then when you first click it, there's a dialog box that comes up on the bottom left-hand corner. It should say share audio.
I don't see that, Nate. I'm just gonna go add to stream. See what happens. Press play.
All right, let me play it. If you let me know if you hear it.
Yeah.
That's what the court intends to charge. I understand there's an exception.
Can you hear it?
The defendants.
Yeah.
Judge, if you charge
Listen.
the jury the way you're contemplating, you are directing a verdict for the state. You are rendering the second sentence in which it describes reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion meaningless. It's in there presumably for a purpose. It's a different burden than immediate knowledge or presence. And so I would urge the court to reconsider and eliminate this, let the state argue what they're going to argue. We have built this whole case around the probable cause, the second sentence, last phrase that Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael had on February 23rd for events that happened previously. And you are gutting all of it if you give this particular charge.
May I ask, Your Honor, if I know we're Friday at 2:30, if over the weekend we were able to email to you or your staff a full, complete with citations argument for what position we're arguing for here, that this contemporaneity of the offense for which you are fleeing and being chased.
Why don't we do this? This is what I intend to charge. I'm not going to reopen all of the charges. I understand the significance of the charge that is presented. I will, if I'm provided something, at least on a timely basis over the weekend, where I can digest and the state then have an opportunity to digest and respond. This charge, I will remain, the intent is as I've described. But if I'm provided different authority than I've already been provided, I will go ahead and reconsider upon the presentation of any additional authority that may come.
The last guy's going to speak.
Shoot for, say, midday tomorrow. I'll be working on it all morning, tonight, in the morning, not Sunday, but sometime tomorrow, get it to the court. And
So people understand this means their case is over.
and
The defense
at some
loses
point,
if they lose
whatever
this
other
charge.
Email addresses you'd like me to use, I'll use. I may have them all already.
I think you've got just about everything.
He just said, I want every email you got, Judge.
Your Honor, I think I've already submitted all the law that I can find, but we'll certainly be happy to adopt what more learned co-counsel can submit. But I agree with Mr. Rubin. And I'm not saying that it's the intention of the court. I don't want to be misunderstood, but the practical effect of this charge is a directed verdict of guilt and it's denial of the sole defense of at least two, if not three, of the defendants in this case. I mean,
That's it. It's over. So the judges essentially made the verdict a directed verdict. You're muted. Viva, you're muted.
Yeah. So the judge made it a directed verdict, meaning now he says there's nothing that needs to be submitted to a jury. I am concluding that in law, they do not have the grounds of defense of citizen's arrest and therefore are what? Guilty of what?
All the charges. Guilty of all the charges. All the murder charges. They're guilty of everything. Because the citizen's arrest charge is meaningless now. So that's where the Ahmaud Arbery case is now. The citizen's arrest charge, based on the law, they've already conceded that they didn't effectuate a citizen's arrest. They've conceded that point, and their defense was conceding that point.
But do they not? I mean, I'm not arguing for them because I believe this. Do they not have a defense of self-defense because Ahmaud reached for the gun and therefore?
Now, this is the key point of it, is that Ahmaud reached for the gun, right? They're saying Ahmaud reached for the gun, but their only privilege of self-defense occurs if they were giving a lawful if they lawfully were able to stop Ahmaud Arbery based on the citizen's arrest, and since they were not lawfully stopping Arbery and citizen's arrest, they've given up their right to self-defense because they were committing a crime themselves, which was false imprisonment. So that's
and now what's the ultimate outcome? What are they going to argue over sentencing? Is that what it's going to come to?
That's why they're looking for a deal or something. They're saying, well, what can we do? That's what they were arguing. That's what the lawyers are saying. What can we do? What can we do? But I gotta tell you, I don't want to get you too wrapped up in the Arbery.
No, that's good enough. I mean, that's it. I didn't pay as much attention to Arbery, and some people are, they hypothesized as to why. I can recognize where I'm going to have my opinion and it's not going to change unless something radical comes out of the evidence. I knew what I felt about Arbery from the very beginning, and nothing came out that changed my opinion. Getting back to Rittenhouse, I knew what I thought from the beginning, and I had my questions. But with the evidence that came out, I lost any doubt that I ever had, and I got thoroughly blackpilled as to the levels of deceit and dishonesty, not just of the media, but of the prosecution. And let's start with one thing. This was never a case about race. There was never any
not at all. It just happened to happen at a.
It happened to happen at a BLM protest.
It just happened to. And it was actually a BLM riot, to be honest with you. And I don't think it was really a protest, because that's essentially what happened. This happened because, and I'll say it, the Kyle Rittenhouse case is all based on media lies. The whole case. And people really need to understand why the whole case is based on media lies. See, the Jacob Blake story is what caused the Kyle Rittenhouse example. Jacob Blake was shot by cops, and that shooting was justified. Jacob Blake's shooting was justified. He was shot in the back. Remember, they canceled NBA games, and they lied.
Shot in the back.
Go ahead.
He was shot in the back. He was shot in the back multiple times, as allegedly he was reaching for a knife in the car. The media narrative, correct. I think Andrew Yang went to visit him in the hospital. You know, he said, "Daddy, why did this happen to me?" The media lied about whether or not he was armed or reaching for a knife, even though he admitted he was in TV interviews.
No,
Snopes
not reaching for a knife. He had a knife in his hand.
Yeah. And Snopes, it was one of the fact checkers said he's got something in his hands. It could be sunglasses. It could be a knife. So that's the Jacob Blake shooting.
Yes, he had the warrant. He admitted it. He had a knife. Police had to shoot him because he's reaching into a car. You know, under police they have their guns out. Don't do it. He reaches into the car. Okay, he gets shot. But the media lied about it. The media told a lie, and then you had the Black Lives Matter. They went out there marching, and obviously you get Kyle Rittenhouse. So the media's lie about Jacob Blake led to Kyle Rittenhouse. But then the media straight up lied about Kyle Rittenhouse. It was 100% total lie. That's all they did was lie. He was a white supremacist. He was this. This was just some 17-year-old kid who went out to help some friends make a little extra cash guarding the car lot. And that DA, Binger supported perjury. Like this is why this case is so crazy. He supported perjury. It's crazy.
We're gonna get to the prosecutorial misconduct. I just want to go through all the levels of wrongness of this. The night it happened, we were told, I don't think this was the mostly fiery, peaceful protest, but this was in the summer of love. This was in the year 2020, where there was no such thing as a violent riot. It was all peaceful protests, and they were, burning down buildings to keep warm and toast marshmallows. So the first thing that I learned out of this, taking over the city, I had no idea of the level of devastation of Kenosha. I had no idea about it until this trial.
It was crazy.
I thought
it
was a legit, I'm calling a legit protest. I thought it was by people who believed in the cause. I had no idea. All of the video footage that we saw that night, nothing but riotous arsonist actors out there to wreak havoc.
Exactly. That was it. That was
the first lie. The second lie, I remember the white nationalist shot 3 black people, and that was still floating around the media as recently as the beginning of the trial.
A couple of weeks ago, somebody with like 100,000 Twitter followers just put that out. White supremacist shoots 3 black people. It's like, what? He didn't shoot any black. What are they talking about?
Yeah. And he said, and he's going to walk. This is white. And people, we're going to get to some of the tweets because I have my Twitter feed up in the background. But that was. I initially said 17-year-olds should not be out with an AR-15 trying to do the policing. I had no idea the police effectively abandoned Kenosha to the arsonists and the rioters and the looters. I also had no idea.
Sick, right?
Sick. You put people in that position. You say, let it burn. And and at the beginning, I thought Rittenhouse was like one of 2 kids, one of 5 people. I shouldn't have said kids. I thought he was like one of 5 people there with guns. I had no idea there were 100+ people with AR-15s protecting various properties. I had no idea there were 15 on the card doctor or whatever it is spot in particular. So anybody who's watching this trial and who has watched this trial now knows that one of the individuals was armed with an unlawful concealed carry Glock. And has learned a lot of facts that has caused them to change their views on all of this. The DA tampered with evidence, witness, withheld evidence, Fifth Amendment vialisms, asked the question, how many other innocent people are in jail? So the media lies.
Yes, that's a beautiful, that's a beautiful super chat. I'm sorry. That super chat is on point. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, you know what? I need to put a shirt, the media lies, instead of just anti-media.
It's media malpractice. Yeah, anti-media. Anti-media. We're media.
We are the alternative media. So when it says anti-alternative media, then I'll be a hypocrite. But I'll tell you one thing: it wasn't a racial issue until the media weaponized it as a racial issue, and that narrative stuck with people from day one. And other than the fact that I believe Kyle Rittenhouse is half Latino, mixed race, he shot 3 white people, one of whom was at a BLM protest using the hard R word, and nobody called
that's
that
gangster.
out,
You gotta be like, that's gangster. That's gangster.
No, what I love, I was watching that video,
he's a hero.
Oh, yeah, no, he's the saint. But people look at him, it's like, who the hell is saying that? They look at him, it's like, oh, he's on our side. He's using it for good reasons. Then he gets the pass. The dude who was out there putting out fires at minority-owned businesses, he's the white nationalist. So that was the biggest red pill, black pill to white pill moment. But Nate,
but I'm telling you though, Rosenberg had to be crazy because he's a white guy going to a BLM rally screaming the N-word around, right? and so you know he was crazy. That
I mean, he could have gotten
hardcore
heck up by a number of people that night. Let's see what it says. Benjamin Crump also got ahead of Jacob Blake's story, lying about what actually happened. And they all did. This is where grifting, or what's the other word when you exploit a tragedy by I think grifting is the word. I had no clue today's International Men's Day. Perfect day for Kyle to be acquitted. This is also a further deposit for Viva's Fly Rod Fund. J Mill, thank you very much. So media malpractice, left, right, and center. But let's get to the prosecutorial misconduct. I mean, I think we're seeing now, and I highlighted this, I think it was yesterday with Ricada, or maybe it was with Barnes the day before. The last 2 weeks has morphed into one. What we have seen in this one particular case, Nate, I presume happens every day, day in and day out, in every other case, except the individuals do not have the means to defend. They don't have the eye of the world to dissect, like Darth Crypto has been doing for the last 2 weeks. You've worked in the
great work.
You've worked in this industry, Nate. I mean, tell us, is this as prevalent as we think it is?
No. And I think
no one's gonna believe you.
Well,
sorry,
they don't. No, but you guys don't. But I've been in there now. Don't forget, there are thousands of prosecutors across, hundreds of thousands of prosecutors across the country, and it's just like saying one cop does a bad thing, and so all cops are bad. This is a widespread thing, right? And if you talk to the right, it's funny because I think we get to this thing where you see one person do something bad and then we overgeneralize it. Yes, there are bad prosecutors. Yes, I think Binger is one of those bad prosecutors. I think Binger straight up lied to that jury. I think Binger straight up falsified evidence. I think Binger supported perjury at putting the owners of that car dealership up there, knowing they're going to lie. When the cop said, I know they're lying. I think that's not what people do. They should be held accountable. And if that state bar association had any gumption, any type of ethical code, they would be up on charges, right? Those are people who you bring in front of the ethics board and said, you knew these guys were going to lie. Why did you put them on the stand? It's a born perjury, right? There's a picture with Kyle right at the beginning of the day before. So we know that they're lying. They were being called people. This is atypical, right? This is atypical. But there are a lot of prosecutors out there trying to do the right thing, and when they see a case that they don't have, they will drop it. But this prosecutor, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know why he did it, but this prosecutor went too far. You don't violate defendants' constitutional rights. This is not something that's done every day, and it's sad because if people think that it's like this done every day, then we have nothing. Look at the O.J. Simpson case, for instance. Those prosecutors lost that case, but nobody said they were corrupt. Ain't nobody say they were unethical, right? They did everything by the book, as much by the book as possible. So that's what I'm saying. Understand this is an admiration of the system. What these people did were wrong, were morally reprehensible. That's what they did.
Well, but I'll tell you this, Nate. The problem is, we know what we know of overcharging in general. We know about prosecutorial. I say not overreach in this sense, but just like the heavy hand of the prosecution to coerce plea deals. come in strong to get a lesser plea. We know that,
Of course.
however, we know what we've seen in Michael Flynn. We know what we've seen
Mhm.
in Roger Stone. We know what we're now seeing with
Yes.
the January 6th rioters. And
Yes.
this is like, when you take, if you were to pick a jelly bean out of a jar and it happens to be a poison jelly bean, well, you wouldn't assume you picked out the only poison jelly bean. You would assume there's a lot of poison jelly beans in there, such that it would result in you picking up the one. Looking at this, I mean, this is so over the top, but only because of the scrutiny it got. If there were no cameras in there, if there were no watchful eye of the internet, we wouldn't know half of the crap that Binger and Krause pulled. But so that's why I think it's much more prevalent than we possibly know. But I don't have that experience. I just have my own experience, which might be traumatic. Being traumatized by the only examples I look at are the ones where it goes bad. So I don't see the thousands where it is done properly. But let's just go.
That's where the ethics board has to come down hard to make an example of these two, that this is unacceptable, right? They can't just go back to work like nothing happened. Something did happen. One of the worst things happened. They tried to railroad a 17-year-old kid by lying about the evidence. That's what happened here. They tried to railroad a 17-year-old kid. That's horrible. And these people need to be held accountable.
And Brian Lindauer is actually quite funny. Ironically, I've never been more sympathetic to the claims of injustice at the heart of BLM's complaint than after watching the Binger and Krause. And I talked about it today briefly in the January 6th vlog. But I remember the story of Willie Nash, where the story came out. Some dude was sentenced to 12 years for having a cell phone in prison, and I'm like, bull crap. Got to be more to the story. Impossible. Read the story. Nope. Third strike. Shouldn't have had a cell phone in prison. It's inconceivable. But looking at this now, and if the ethics boards are watching, let's go through 26 minutes in. I'll clip this highlight. Let's go through all of the arguable, alleged, potential prosecutorial overreach, or as I will say, prosecutorial misconduct in this file. Let's start with one. What's the word? Trying to get witness perjury. What's that called?
We have them all.
What was
you're
the word
talking about suborning perjury. Suborning perjury. Sorry, I keep forgetting that word. Suborning perjury. There's two elements of it, actually, because one is with Grosskreutz. Don't let me forget, people. But with Sal and Sam. Sal and Sam. Now, there's a rule in law, Nate. I know it from civil. I know it's the same in the U.S. You cannot ask a witness to lie. You cannot induce a witness to knowingly provide a false answer. If you know the witness is lying, you cannot continue to allow that witness to provide testimony to the court. How you go about it, you cannot say, hey, my witness is lying or my client is lying, because that would be violating your ethics with respect to your client. But do you hear kids screaming? Those damn kids. But you cannot allow a witness to continue knowingly providing incorrect or dishonest testimony to the court. So let's just go through all the times. Or if it does, you have to let them know too. If that happens, then you got to also let the court know. So for us, it's like, you can't let the court be fooled, right? And we call it's candor to the tribunal. That's what they call it here.
Well, there is an issue of first of all, can Kyle Rittenhouse sue? Okay, I don't know what that means, but I think I know what it means. For legal fees and deprivation of liberty. We'll talk about it. I don't think so, but we'll see.
I don't think so. Yeah.
But but there is an issue that if it's your client, you have a duty to your clients. You cannot breach the solicitor-client relationship. Although in this case, it's witnesses and not clients. But so if you know your own client is lying, you can't say, hey, judge, my client's lying, because that is going to unethical. But you cannot continue to ask questions to that effect.
Yeah.
When it comes
you may not be able to continue with the case too, but you may have to recuse yourself from the case too, because the client is telling you to break the ethical code. So
thank God Kyle fired Barnes. Okay, I'm going to get to this afterwards. I think that's sarcastic or humorous. But we're going to get to Barnes because I've that. But so when it comes to the witnesses with Sal and Sam, some people were saying this was Darth Crypto's video from yesterday, which was video evidence of all of the gentlemen on premises at Sal and Sam's place with the both of them present earlier on in the evening. Sal and Sam testified to the fact that they didn't give them permission. They didn't know they were going to be there. They only found out, I think, the next day or something. And someone said, well, who even knows the prosecutor knew about that? Maybe they didn't. Maybe Binger and Krause didn't. So it's not, inducing perjury. They just didn't know. Two things. Bullcrap. There's not a chance in hell that they didn't know, that they haven't seen all that footage. There's not a chance in hell they did not know what was on Grosskreuz's cell phone. So they knew. And if they didn't know, they ought to have known, and it's just as bad. But they knew. We all knew watching Sal and Sam that they were lying about something before we found out. So I will say, not to mind read, they knew.
Well,
And they asked
let's
go for it.
Let's go with the evidence, right? They gave statements to the police. And those statements to the police, even the police thought they were lying, right? The police thought they were lying. So I'm assuming the police went into those prosecutors' offices and said, hey, I don't think this is a good one because I think they're lying, right? Then number two, they said, we didn't ask nobody to come. We didn't even know that was there. But then let's not forget they had the picture where you had Sal and Sam, next to each other, next to the guys with the gun, right? Already had the gun, and you got them taking pictures with Sal and Sam. Then you go up to that next point, right? The picture with Sal and Sam, the detectives told them, and then you have them just straight up lying on. They don't know how much damage. They're on tape saying it's $2 million, but then they're in court. They're saying we really don't know. It's like so we knew what was going on there. We knew what was going on there, and I think there was enough evidence where that prosecutor wasn't asking those questions in good faith. He was asking those questions because he was trying to railroad a 17-year-old, and I think that's the thing. That's the point that most people under here need to really understand. They tried to railroad a 17-year-old by suborning perjury from these two men. And it didn't work, thank God. Thank God it didn't work. But just imagine if we didn't have all this evidence, if we didn't watch it for ourselves, they would still be going on like this. And that's why I'm saying something has to happen, because that was just ridiculous. Suborning perjury, we're already there.
And it's funny. So Jack Posobiec, and if nobody follows him on Twitter, go follow him. Although I suspect everyone watching tonight is the middle part of the Venn diagram who already knows of Jack. But he made a great point on Nick's stream today after the verdict. He says, George Orwell, he got it right, but he got it wrong. We're under constant surveillance, but it's not only from the government, it's from each other as well. And but for all of those other social media types capturing all of this, people with their cell phones, well, we wouldn't have the hard evidence of the untruthfulness of the statements that Sal and Sam were making, in particular, Grosskreutz, all of these witnesses. But one thing is for certain, it's not a question of mind reading. It is just a question of knowing that Binger and Krause, based on the way they phrased the questions, they knew the answers that they needed to get from the witnesses, which were contrary to reality. And they phrased their questions in such a way to induce those answers. And that is arguably, allegedly, because everyone knows you don't accuse people of crimes that can be defamatory. It is arguably, but probably clearly unethical. The Sal and Sam, we all knew they were lying from the beginning. Now we have video evidence, photographic evidence, and it's inconceivable to the point of absurdity to say the prosecution just didn't know. They knew, they had the evidence, they tried to circumvent it, they tried to paint a picture of a renegade militiaman Rittenhouse unlawfully on this premises with no good reason, yada, 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 out there to cause harm, and they knew it was wrong. But and they were ready to go with it, and they were ready to let an innocent kid rot in jail for the rest of his life. Sal and Sam were not the only ones, Nate. The one that I find most shocking is, and it's again, this is Dart. What's it? I'm sorry, I just forgot his name now. Oh, Crypto Vader. Was it Vader Crypto? Oh, you're on mute. Darth Crypto. Nate, you're on mute. I don't think we got another boomer.
Sorry, yeah, Darth Crypto. Darth Crypto.
Yeah.
We both
Darth
do the same
Crypto.
thing.
I think it was Darth Crypto that put out a tweet this morning or yesterday about Grosskreutz, where Grosskreuz's testimony was that
Yes.
my permit had expired. Expired is very different than revoked, because expired would be him failing to renew. Revoked would be it was taken away for a reason. Darth Crypto, I believe, found an image of the permit which showed that it expired in 2023 or 2025 in the future. So it was not expired. It had been revoked because of presumably felonious behavior by Grosskreutz.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, well, so maybe it was Grosskreutz who said it expired. No, it was Binger who framed the question by infusing the word expired. And that
that's what it is.
How do
you know what it is. It's allegedly a crime. Allegedly a crime. But who really knows, right? Who really knows? Yeah, you know what, Bing I don't know what Binger was trying to do. I don't know why something like that is like a nothing thing. And plus the prosecutor should check that already. Hey, you didn't have your license. Let's do a quick background check on the license. They have the tools to do it, right? Just literally type in his name in the computer. Oh, his license was revoked because of this. And then you go to court and you say something that's just totally untrue. That's one thing. Again, I don't know how it is in Wisconsin, but this just like if I did that here, I would be on a platter. The judge would be sitting me up and say, You lied to us and you told us, no, this is obviously is false. What are you doing? You know, we got to be, you're an officer of the court. We have to trust what you're saying is true.
Oh, this is a good question. Actually, let me take a picture of this. We'll get to it in a second. I don't want to interrupt the flow because I had the same question. No, Nate, on those lines, forget inducing lies before the court. And Schroeder's going to find out about it. I mean, I suspect he knew all along because he's watching the media. He was watching this in real time, and he knows in real time what Binger and Krause are saying that are lies and the inducement of lies from their witnesses. If I showed up to court once without a tie because I was waiting to put my gown on and I got yelled at by a judge, you do these things. I mean, you're out of the courtroom. Your cell phone goes off. Yeah. You're out of the courtroom. This is about violating the Constitution itself, which I guess brings us into the third. So we've got the
suborning perjury twice.
Suborning perjury on Sal, Sam, and Grosskreutz, and now we get the constitutional violations, Fifth Amendment on Rittenhouse. You tell me. I mean, I didn't know that it was as egregious as it was because I wasn't expecting the judge to blow his lid. How egregious was that Fifth Amendment violation?
It didn't. The thing is that when it first happened, it was like it was kind of like so shocking. I just was like, what is it? Maybe I missed the question. Maybe I'm just not understanding where he's going with this. It's just because generally, us as prosecutors, you always know post arrest silence. You can't say, well, after he was arrested, he didn't say anything, right? Because you have a right to not say something. So by me mentioning it or me saying anything about it, if the jury holds it against you in some way, then that's violating your rights because it's not. Then they can't hold it against you legally. It's not supposed to be able to be held against you. So Binger asking him, well, isn't this the first time you told your story? It was kind of like, well, is he talking about pre-arrest? Or is he talking about post-arrest? Because post-arrest, there's no story he needs to tell, right? That's constitutionally protected. And so the objection came. And then when he did it again, it was like, all right, he's essentially went over the line with this. He's essentially went over the line with this. The first time you get the objection, you say, okay, well, I must. But then the second time, and even the judge said, you probably went over the line with this. And that's my issue with the judge. If he's got a prosecutor violating the kid's constitutional rights, and he said you went over the line, well, when you go over the line, that usually means the case is dismissed with prejudice, and you admonish the prosecutor, especially when you're talking about violating someone's constitutional rights.
And I could understand the idea that the judge did not want to make any a substantive determination. He wanted to leave it in the hands of the jury, have them make the right, legally correct decision, so that it's a plain full dismissal and not a dismissal with prejudice, which. In theory, the media will get to say, he was let off on a technicality. He's still guilty in our minds, and screw him. As if they were ever going to say he's innocent if the jury found him innocent, which they're not.
Yeah.
You get who was it talking about a miscarriage of justice? De Blasio. We'll get to the defamatory tweets in a second.
That's crazy. His tweets were crazy. That tweet was insane. That was just insane. It was just like, did he not see any of this? What the?
It is what happens. It's cognitive dissonance. It's like what happens when your reality crumbles before your eyes, and like everything you thought you knew is no longer the case. But we'll get to that because the defamatory tweets. We'll get to in a second. But now this is the question. So the judge didn't want to leave. He wanted to leave it in the hands of the jury. He, I guess, knew that they were going to make the right decision after 3.5 days of deliberation. He did not want it to be dismissed on a legal technicality that would leave the stink of culpability or guilt, but absolution on a technical basis. The judge dismissed with prejudice after the 5 found not guilty verdicts on all charges. Does that set the stage for prosecutorial misconduct? Why did the judge dismiss with prejudice after the full acquittal on all the charges?
I don't know. Maybe that just might be a way they do it there, where if you're dismissed, if you're acquitted, then you dismiss the case on all charges. I don't know. Maybe that's the way they do it. I'm not sure. It didn't make sense to me because it was like after the acquittal, then what charges are to be dismissed? He's already not guilty on all those charges, right? Maybe it's just a form of cause of form, so they can't bring them back. Like, all right, we're going to formally dismiss them with prejudice since they've been found not guilty. I don't know.
Barnes, it's a question for Barnes as well. We'll see on Sunday. The madness of the crowd meets the wisdom of the crowd, and justice was luckily dispensed. Yeah, it's the idea of justice. On the one hand, the situation is disgusting. It should have never happened in the first place because you should have never had the police effectively abandoning and surrendering a town to arsonists and rioters, not legit BLM protesters. That's the first thing. The second thing is, justice being served after a kid who should never have been prosecuted was prosecuted. It's justice being served after a kid who was maligned by the media, who should never have been maligned by the media. The president, the mayor of New York, this mainstream media everywhere. White nationalists. I mean, the kids got to be thinking like, I'm half not white. I don't even know what that means, but so I mean, justice being served after 14 months of injustice is hardly justice at all. But yeah, at least it wasn't further compounding the injustice. Did we miss any? Go for it.
Do we miss any what? No, you don't.
Overreach. Any more overreach by Binger? We got
we just let's go back to the opening statement. The opening statement when he goes and says the evidence is going to show that Kyle Rittenhouse chased down and killed Rosenbaum.
Shot him in the back.
Yeah,
like a dog. Like the thing was, he was fleeing, and this evil kid who spent 3 weeks growing up in a prison cell shot him in the back. Sorry, go on.
No. It's the problem is that I understand making an argument for your case where you're going to take a little creative liberty, or even you want to project a narrative, but he wasn't doing that. Those are just facts that were wrong, right? Those are just literally lies. They were essentially lies, right? No video, no tape, no witness said that Kyle ever chased Rosenbaum, right? We went through the whole trial. That wasn't even mentioned, right? Everybody said the opposite. And if you have a prosecutor who sits there with all the evidence, knows what the witness is going to say, knows what all is going to say, and then sits there and says this thing anyway, that is, that's lying to the court. And he had to know it was a lie because he's talked to the witnesses. He's seen the tape. We saw the tape. We knew that was false as soon as he said it. I don't know why he said it. It just was. It's frustrating because it really puts into doubt the system that we live in and the power of these prosecutors. Now we have to start thinking about maybe legislation, something to bring this stuff back, because this is scary. Think about how scary this is. They tried to railroad this kid like this. It's scary by straight up lying. A seasoned prosecutor too. This guy's had how many trials? 300 trials or something like that. He should know better.
How many? Well, I got a good question now. He's had 300 trials. How many do they get to go back on now and question whether or not he pulled this chicanery in previous trials? Is that a thing? Like, does that happen when someone witnesses this publicly?
Yeah, but right now, look at the left. They're praising Binger's name, right? Look, I was looking at MSNBC the other night. Binger, they're like, Binger, the prosecutor made this argument and he's been doing good, and he's just got a bad case in front of him. It's like, no, it's almost like you'll usually say, one screen, two films. That's the life we're living in now. We're living in a world where the other side doesn't see what's on the screen. It's not. They don't see a film. They're like, what film? We're like in the middle of the movie. The film's right there. Well, you don't see the film at all.
I was going to say that it's not. I don't even know that it's one screen, two films anymore. People are not watching, and they are just they're not even watching. They're just reading the reviews of people they've designated, who they know are designated liars. Hey, I don't want to watch this. Like Rachel Maddow, tell me what happened today. Well, white nationalists got off scot-free. There's no justice in America, and that's it. Boom. And this might be a good time. Let me see if I can share a screen. The one thing is I'm lucky on this computer. I know I have nothing potentially embarrassing on this computer. I'm joking. I only have one computer. Do you see me, Nate, sharing my Twitter feed?
Yes, you are sharing your Twitter feed.
Good.
Don't click the messages.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Is it the big? I've got nothing bad on my messages anyhow. But is it the big?
No. Go to the tab, and whatever we go to the actual tab that's showing, there should be like a little blue box on it, and if you go there, if you can blow it up or shrink it.
Dude, I can see what I'm looking at now. Well, how do I navigate this now?
Like you can scroll up or down, or you can pinch and zoom.
No, but now I got to go. Oh no, it's because I'm only using one computer. Either way, so I can't see everybody right now, but I'm just going to go to some of the great takes of the day on what happened today. This is David Hogg. And I have sympathy for David Hogg, given his life.
You got to blow it up a little bit so we can see it. Blow it up a little bit so we can see it.
What if I do like this?
Yeah.
We can do this. The families of those killed deserve justice, and even that has now been taken from them too. My thoughts are with them. And I try to be. I do want to be sympathetic to David Hogg in particular. People with traumatic life experiences. Yeah. You have to be respectful to their life experience, but I understand your life experience, and it's good to feel empathy. But Rosenbaum was a convicted potato file. Huber was a violent individual. Now, it's true that the jury doesn't know this, but I suspect they might have known this because I do suspect they were all watching the media regardless. They were both stalking Kyle with the specific intent to kill him. It was pure self-defense, which is why the jury acquitted. I mean, and that's one bad take. Then you got, well, this is very funny. Biden saying, Biden looking for peaceful protest, which, unless I'm going crazy, was exactly what Trump said before he was impeached for inciting an insurrection. But there was one particular take.
Go protest peacefully. He incites the insurrection by saying, "Go protest peacefully." It's just like so crazy. It's real. That's crazy stuff.
What's crazy about it is if that's what they thought Trump was saying when he said it, that's what they're saying when they say it. Now, I didn't think Trump was saying that when he said it, and I don't think Biden.
I didn't think so either.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think he's saying it when he's saying it, but by virtue of the fact that he thought Trump was saying "go violent" when you say peaceful, that must mean that's what he's thinking right now. But this is the take of the day. This is the take of the day. Anthony Huber and Joe are victims. The court just came back and said they're not, but he says they are. They should be alive today. Maybe they should be. Maybe they shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe de Blasio does not know. Not that anyone convicted of certain crimes should be summarily executed by non-judicial system stuff, but maybe he doesn't know who they are. The only reason they're not is because a violent, dangerous man chose to take a gun across state lines, lie, demonstrable lie, and start, because that's exactly what happened. Because if you've watched the trial, that's exactly what happened. He just showed up and started. To call this a miscarriage of justice is an understatement. And this is the part that I deleted the tweet because I didn't want anyone thinking that this was the dog whistle of anything. When he calls this a miscarriage of justice, stop sharing. And how do I get back to the tab? When he calls it a miscarriage of justice, let me just get my StreamYard. When he calls it a miscarriage of justice, that to me is putting the jury on full blast, because he's basically saying these 12 jury members are responsible for a miscarriage of justice. And to me, that sounds like a dog whistle. But Nate, we know the criteria. It's a question of opinion, varying degrees. Do you think this can possibly rise to the level of defamation, given what are now established judicial facts?
Unfortunately, Kyle is pretty much a public figure, and he would have to show malice, and you got to show us harming his reputation. I think only people who believe Bill de Blasio or probably pity who are not really that sane anyway, because Bill de Blasio he's not, what do they call him, Comrade de Blasio anyway? But they call him because he's the mayor of my city.
They call him worse than that, but we can't repeat that.
That's
an instant.
I can't repeat it because when they keep this monitors. But one thing about de Blasio, that statement, you can see he's bought into this is somebody who's the mayor of a major city in America, right? He has people to give him facts and information to tell him the truth. And he is fooled, right? Because Kyle didn't cross state lines with a gun. That just didn't happen, right? That's a lie. But somebody told him that. And it shows you he's running the city on bad facts. And that's why we get to the place where we are today, because we can all disagree, right, on what the facts mean. But as soon as we start disagreeing on what the facts actually are, that's when you got a problem, right? And he's wrong on the underlying facts of the situation. Now, how do you fix that? I don't know, because no matter how many times we tweet, no matter how many times people say, yeah, you're wrong on the facts, he believes what he's saying is true and right. And he's defending someone who, unfortunately, there's absolutely no. I'll say this: if de Blasio was in that situation, I believe he would have shot Rosenbaum too. I believe if de Blasio was in Rittenhouse situation, he would have shot de Blasio. He would have shot him too, and he knows it.
Yeah, except de Blasio say, I would have never been in that situation because I would never be reckless enough to show up with a gun to a fist fight, to quote Binger. So he'll say, I would never put myself in that morally culpable situation in the first place. So therefore,
everybody takes the beating.
Okay, now Sally, here's the interesting thing. Will anyone ever apologize to Juror 54? You were ready to accuse him of trying to sway the jury and being demanding and bossy. I did. I wasn't about to. So all of it, but I do want to know, because we're going to find out, what was Juror 54 doing? Maybe Juror 54 was the voice of reason with respect to one or two holdouts who were not the jury forepersons. I'd like to see. I mean, I could be wrong in my assessment, and then I apologize to her. Or him, sorry, I'm just actually apologize to them. It was not an accusation that was a direct accusation. It was more, this is my deduction. I may be wrong. I may still be wrong, but I still don't think I was wrong. I do tend to think the way that reads was not a juror trying to convince others. It was a juror trying to convince others, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But we'll see. We're going to find out what juror 54 was. Go for it.
You know what? I'm assuming what happens is juror 54 could have been the 4-person. Well, I think juror 54 was the 4-person, but I think juror 54 might have been the one trying to organize things, because you got the people arguing, and that's why the note came out as it is, because you'll say, so what do you want? What do you want? And she's writing down what they're saying. So it could have been that thing. But at the end of the day, I think you probably had people in that jury room who went in there saying, I think this kid committed, he provoked it, right? Because that's what question 5 was about. When you watch Viva's video on question 5 was about provocation, right? You knew exactly what they were going with this. We wanted to see if he provoked it. And when that was clear that he did, and based on that evidence and based on the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, I think that swayed everybody to say, okay, maybe we don't believe he's committed something. Maybe we don't believe it, right? But did they prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? And that's what it came down to. And I think at the end of the day, no one here can say that this is one of the most obvious cases of self-defense I think anybody can ever see. That was caught on video, and we had to go to a jury verdict. That's the problem. That's what the system failed Kyle in that sense. This should have never gone to trial.
With respect to juror 54, I would say this. My suspicion, my inkling, and it might be, I wouldn't call it confession through projection, because it's not a feeling that I have. It's just the way I would read it. It would be the person who takes an activist position to test out the waters and see how many people can I sway. Oh, and start softly. Don't go in as the belligerent. He's guilty. Let's fry him. Go in like, are you sure about this? Hey guys, and try to sway people to see if you can get that momentum with the jury, to say if you get to 2 or 3, 4, then maybe you can start having a bigger team to try to sway the other 8. And if that doesn't happen, then you abandon. Like, if she's one or 2, he or she, I'm not saying she, whoever wrote that, you poisoned my mind with the she first. If they are of 1 or 2, and they clearly see they're not going to make headway with the others, and they don't want to be thrown under the bus for a hung jury, I could see them changing their tune. Or, I tried, it's not going to work. Let's all kumbaya, unanimous acquittal. But still, the way the note was drafted, please, how did it start?
I agree with you.
We'll get it.
It was very. Give it to me, and it was very authoritative. I'll say
they might have been nervous. They might have just been curt. They might have been direct. But even still, I would have been more, different. I would have done it differently, so I can only interpret based on how I think I would have reacted with my own framework. But we'll see.
But you know what?
And if I was wrong,
but you know what though?
Yeah.
I think the issue, a lot of people were upset that the jury took so long, but I think that's a good thing, right? Because they went and they took it serious. They said, okay, let's look at the evidence. Let's look what people are showing us. We want to take the charges home with us at night, right? Because we want to make sure we're doing this correct. And whenever you have something like that, I'd rather a jury take it serious. My only issue is that I just think this was just so obvious on its face, right? The kid was chased down by a crazed pedophile. I'm sorry, I even said the word, but chased by the crazed maniac leaping at him for his gun. It's like, what more do you need to see? It's on camera here. So, it's like, I don't know.
Except in fairness, he did not know of his predilections at the time he was being chased. He just knew I'm being chased by an ultra aggressive individual. True. He's only 5'3", 150, freaking built. I mean, that is built by any objective standards. I'm 5'5" and a half, 160, and that's pretty good. Under 10% body fat. I should also throw that out there. But no, it's what was that? Is everyone okay? Okay, everyone's okay. No, but I'll tell you one thing about Juror 54. If I were wrong, I will admit that I was wrong. I will admit that my interpretation might have been me reading into it the way I was seeing it and not the way obviously it was. But I want to see.
Your interpretation was spot on. I saw it. I liked it. I think you're spot on. I thought the way you explained it, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And the jury came out to exactly what I think. But I think they came out to the right verdict at the end. No, I don't. You don't have to take any beat for that.
No.
What you said makes sense.
But I'll tell you, if I were wrong, I mean, I have no problem. I see the thing about the apology is that typically it's not, if someone were wronged by the act, you apologize if you did something wrong. to the extent it's an anonymous person, it was an assessment and it might have been a wrong assessment, but whatever. If I were wrong, I will wholeheartedly accept my wrongness in the same way I was wrong with the show, my prediction of Chauvin. I may have gotten too swayed by the evidence as I watched it and didn't read the room as others had read the room. But now let's get to one thing. The individual who said, "I'm glad Kyle Freed fired Barnes." So first of all, I don't believe that that's actually how it happened, but it doesn't matter. Let's just say you're happy Barnes was not in there. Reading that DM or that chat, I don't know if you mean that you're happy that Barnes was on the outside, because I might be happy that Kyle also that ultimately they ended up with Richards and Shirafisi, and that Barnes ended up on the outside to mobilize nothing less than a digital army of people to get involved in this case and follow it and to put the pressure on everyone involved. Because there's parts of me that say where I could see where Barnes would have been very strong on this, but maybe where Richards with his demeanor might have been more appropriate contextually. So I can read it that way. I don't know how the person meant it, but some people were saying Barnes has a big ego and was unduly harsh on Richards and Shirafisi. The first thing I'd say to that is people confound ego with confidence, and people confound people who know what they're good at and know when their assessment is probably more well-founded than others, and they confuse that with ego, where it's actually just confidence because they know their abilities. Barnes knows his abilities, and I've got to say, for the times when Barnes has been wrong or inaccurate, he has been more accurate than not on things where his predictions of accuracy were excessively unlikely given, the general context. Barnes was right on a lot of things here. He might have been wrong on a few things. Shirafisi and Richards did a decent job. Actually, but Nate, Shirafisi offering the dismissal without prejudice yesterday, or was it the day before? We can all agree there's no strategic benefit to that. That could have been the ultimate F up at that point in time.
I didn't see why. I didn't know why he did that. That was just like because I thought they had. I thought at worst they had was a hung jury, right? The defense is going into this. Worst we can do is a hung jury, right? Because somebody in there is going to just understand that this is clearly self-defense. But offering that, I thought that was too heavy. That wasn't great for the client. But no matter what anybody says about those two lawyers, they had a file, and at the end of the day, they got an acquittal for their client. A straight acquittal, right? Though everything straight acquittal. On all charges on a capital murder case. So it's no matter I understand I would have done things differently, right? I would have maybe done things, but the thing is, at the end of the day, they got a straight out win for their client. We might form and substance is one thing, and about Barnes too. I'll say this: Barnes, for those of you who don't know, Barnes has been predicting this stuff with us, and no matter what anyone says, Barnes is top notch on his not only his understanding, but the way he lays the law out, so it can make it easily digestible for everyone. So yes, we all I know a lot of people are going to say Barnes was overly harsh. We were all extremely harsh on the defense at the beginning, right? Watch Ricardo's first couple of streams. We were all saying the defense was losing and throwing the case. We were all saying that type of stuff. So it wasn't just Barnes. Their performance at the beginning of this trial was horrible. But as they got better and as the trial went on, and they got better and they got the Grosskreutz admission, we all said they were doing an excellent job. Even Barnes. Barnes said, no, they're doing a great job at the end. So I understand people wanting to kind of see something that wasn't there, but it wasn't just Barnes alone saying the defense was messing up. We all said it in unison. Myself, Viva said it. Remember the opening statements, how we said it was so horrible? We all were, because we were watching a case and we were judging them as not participants, as watchers. We were watching the case, giving our opinion as things happen. So
Nate, you seem to be more right-leaning than a couple of years ago. This is the same progression I noticed with Tim Pool, but I cannot speak for your political leanings. I don't think it's left or right. I think it's just a question of seeing which aspect of the political institution is fundamentally corrupt. Comrade de Blasio.
The thing is that
go for it.
Oh, just to say, hey, listen, I'm when it's a Democrat in office, I seem to be a little more right-leaning. When a Republican in office, I'm a little bit more Democratic-leaning, right? Because it's you're responding to what's out there right now. To be honest with you, my votes do the same thing. But I will say this: Ahmaud Arbery, all the right-leaning people are against me with Ahmaud Arbery, or what was the other one? The other one from the Capitol shooting, Ashley Babbitt, right?
Yep.
So most people on the other side with that, right? So my political leanings are really just truth leanings, right? I'm here for truth, and if the truth happens, if you're right and you like the truth, then okay. If you're on the left side and you like the truth, but if sometimes the truth disagrees with your political leanings, but I'm still going to give you the truth. Call it what you will.
Now, so I can't bring this one up. It's a super sticker from If There's No Self-Defense, Then There's Nothing. It was a $50 super sticker. I can't find it to pull it back up. But if there's no self-defense, then there's nothing. Thank you for the super sticker. It's a historic day when common sense and reality prevail, but not historic in a good way. Unbelievable it went as far as it went, and I agree. And ultimately, look, I know I take flack for my preconceived notions in the McMichaels case, but I definitely understand where that trial has gone, and it's one of the reasons why I had no real interest in covering it. I didn't see a controversy, and I did see that my initial beliefs were not going to get changed based on the information that I saw. And I wasn't going to do, I couldn't do objective analysis of that because I know too strongly what I believed of that case from the beginning. Son of a beast,
it was tough. I also did too, right? But because I at first I was like, oh, this is so horrible. But then I remember which was the name of the woman's case? Breonna Taylor. I was like, I remember Breonna Taylor. And then I remember Jacob Blake. And I was like, oh, hold on. This seems like another one of those. Let me look. And then I started seeing, the defense and like, hold on. He wasn't just some innocent jogger, right? You don't jog in people's house at 12 o'clock at night. You don't do all these type of things. This is kind of looking crazy. But at the end of the day, it was like, can we just now assassinate this person? Can we chase this person down and point a gun at them and kill them for something we think he did 10 days ago? Well, but court saying no,
even if he did it, this is where I get called the Canadian, I won't say snowflake, but this is where I get called the Canadian. Even if he did do it, they had enough time in the world to get every geometric position of his face, photographs, video evidence, go to the cops. It's property. By and large, people should not be killed or murdered over property. And then people say like, oh, Viva the sissy Canadian, go rob from him. I feel like in some way, Jules from Pulp Fiction, take my wallet so that I don't have to kill you, because I'd rather you steal a few $100. I'd rather you burglarize a garage. Don't threaten my dog. Don't threaten my life. And then we don't have a problem. But, and then if it becomes a consistent problem, install cameras, get the cops. There's so many things you can do above and beyond getting in a pickup truck armed with guns. You know what's going to happen. Now, people try to draw the analogy between Rittenhouse and say he showed up to the riots with a gun. He knew it was going to happen. He showed up with a gun, incidentally, like hundreds of other people, incidentally, like the rioters themselves, except his was a lawful open carry, not an unlawful concealed carry for David Hogg, who's interested in gun rights, seemingly defending not just potato files, but also unlawful concealed carries, because handguns kill more people than long arms, regardless of what people think. But sorry, I'm choking on my own tongue. All of that aside, this is why I looked at Ahmaud Arbery. It's like, even if he were guilty, even if it were in the moment, get a picture, get a video, report it to the cops. But the cops weren't doing anything. Okay. Oh, but the property owner said they were scared. I appreciate that. But we're not talking about breaking and entering, getting into your kitchen in the middle of the night. This is an open air, under construction facility with toolboxes. And it's worth money. But the life of a criminal is still worth more than a toolbox. So that was my underlying preconceived notion from the beginning.
And you were right. The problem with Ahmaud Arbery is that when it first came out, and this one, you just got to be cold with the facts, right? You can't hunt someone down, jump in pickup trucks in the deep south, hunt someone down and just screaming the N-word, shoot the guy, and then when the cops come and you're over the dead body, they're like, I killed the N block, and it's like, people are going to say it's about race, and I think rightfully so. People are going to be like, maybe this is a racist killing because you screaming the N-word and you kill the guy, you stand in the room saying N-word after over the dead body.
Give the criminals the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it wasn't a racist killing. Maybe it was just a racist motivated profiling in the actual sense. And had it been another dude, like another construction guy who, nice shirt, Nate. That was the most indirect. Booyah. Nate Brody, anti-media. Those are very ugly facts. Having the lawyer come on and say we don't need any more black pastors down here. my goodness, you have to be not
shooting
just tone
yourself
deaf,
in the
but
foot.
yeah, in both feet. Little Rock says, now Little Rock is an attorney. We
All
know
right.
this. Now, I did not divulge anything private. This was disclosed in previous chats. We all said, including Nate, that Colin Kyle did nothing better than maintain status quo and at worst hurt them, allowing the prosecutor to bring in, he lied. Yeah. I didn't give a crap that he lied about being an EMT because I wouldn't call that a lie. I'd call that, in French, bon dol, good deceit. It's like when a car salesman says it's the best car in the world. You know it's not the best car in the world, but you know what he means by it. Yeah, he's an EMT. He might be trained, whatever. Okay. Richard said,
No, but you know what, though?
Go for it.
It's I think some people, like the EMT thing, technically it's a lie. But I've been out there, for instance, when we were doing like first aid. Sometimes people like they would call us all EMTs, right? Even though we weren't EMTs, but we were out there because we were first aid and CPR certified. So just in case we had little med packs and stuff like that, and you get a little bumper, then we wipe it up or whatever, right? But we weren't EMTs. But it was easier just to call us EMTs because you just have, because that's the job, and everybody kind of recognized what that was the job that you were doing. So, but that people want to make a big deal like, oh, he called himself an EMT. That means he's guilty of murder. It's like, what? Like in what world do we live in, right? Is it, like,
so
what? No, it doesn't go that way. Right?
He lied about being an EMT,
guilty.
Although he showed up to administer first aid. So that means he showed up to shoot people. Oh my God! Let me just give Matthew Modine another shout out. He showed up wearing Matthew Modine he was in a bunch of movies that I loved, and I cannot remember. Oh, Full Metal Jacket, for goodness sake. He was in Full Metal Jacket. Classic. Matthew Modine takes to the Twitterverse to eternalize his outright stupidity and says, Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with surgical gloves. Why? Was he trying to conceal his fingerprints? He showed up with a gun to a riot. He intended to kill people. And I said, like, yeah, dude, he showed up with surgical gloves to cover his fingerprints because he wanted to kill people, but not a face mask. Well done, sir. I don't think you thought this through. But on that note, my cat's breath smells like cat food. That is a Ralph reference from The Simpsons. Oh, good. Just so everybody knows, in Super Chats, Simpsons references, oh, those are obligatory highlights. Thank you for the laugh. Yes, my dog's breath smells like dog food. But to quote The Lonely Island, to a dog food is duck food. Okay, let's let that sink in.
I don't know where you going with this.
No, just random crap. Watch original movie 12 Angry Men. I watched it. 1957 classic, and reminds me of the deliberation process you're describing. My only problem with 12 Angry Men, and I did a podcast with Diecast, Diecast, and and if anybody can find it, I'll try to find the original podcast. My only problem with 12 Angry Men, they didn't raise reasonable doubt. They raised in that unreasonable doubt that the individual who was alleged to have purchased the actual weapon lost it because it fell through a hole in their pocket and someone else could have picked it up and could have done the stabbing. The people who witnessed it, it was in that movie, 12 Angry Men, it was not reasonable doubt that they raised. It was, in my mind, unreasonable doubt. But I understood the point of the movie. It was a good one. I never thought that I would see a verdict where the right to defend yourself. Maybe there is hope for America. Well, the issue is people are going to confound the Rittenhouse verdict, acquittal, with the McMichael's conviction. And I think they're false equivalencies, and I think people should avoid doing it. But I just, that kid, man, that kid.
McMichael's isn't convicted yet. Just to be clear, though, McMichael's isn't convicted yet. They're going to a jury. But essentially, the defense is saying that if the jury's charged the way the judge is saying it, it's going to be a directed verdict. It's over. It's over. That case is going to be over.
Well, especially if they concede a matter of law. The day of, we saw nothing, but we suspected that he had been guilty of doing it, previously. Big problem. But that was my problem from the beginning.
Game over.
And just everybody knows, Barnes and I are not on bad terms. Barnes and we are brothers at law. And I just couldn't reach him today. So I wanted to get this up because, first of all, I didn't want to go live at the same time as Rekieta because Rekieta has done something beautiful. And I didn't want anybody thinking I was trying to compete with Rekieta. I didn't want to go live in the afternoon because Eric Hundley was going live at 5:30. And I didn't want to go live too late because I know Barnes. I think he's doing Bourbon with Barnes on our locals, Viva Barn Laws. Damn it, I screwed it up. Forget
locals.com. I finished it for you, though. I finished it for you.
So I know that he's doing that, and I don't want to cut into Barnes. And then, the problem is we are now in a legal law YouTube verse where it's almost impossible not to overlap in any event. But
you You got to do you just got to do your thing. I know like the tough one of the toughest parts of this stuff, like you're saying, the whole YouTube legal verse is that there's so much little stuff to cover now that it really doesn't even matter. Like right now you got the what's the Maxwell case going on. You got Cardi B coming up soon.
No,
It's like it's never ending stuff.
Apparently Ghislaine Maxwell started. I don't think any sinister motives for the overlap. I just think, unfortunately, there's too much of this to even deal with. But I don't know that Ghislaine Maxwell is being broadcast. So, do you know if Ghislaine Maxwell is or will be broadcast? I don't
believe it. I think it's because of the sensitive nature of the topics. I don't think it will.
And by the way, I just got a notification. Nate the lawyer guilty. The trial. Okay, I got a notification for Nate's video. Oh man! But so. Look, I want a white pill moment out of this, because the white pill moment is not that Rittenhouse was acquitted. That was the logic pill moment. I got to say, some people had made jokes or alluding to Rittenhouse, not being the sharpest tool in the box. When I saw him testify, dude was not only smart, on point, he was emotionally smart. He was concise. He was matter of fact. And the kid is 18 and has gone through absolute hell. Because I got to tell you one thing. Set aside the 14 months of living hell that the media and politicians have put him through. Even if they said from day one, you're right, you did what you had to do, it's a disgusting. He has to live with the fact. Let me just swallow again. He has to live with the fact that he knows. I'm not saying this to be graphic or glib. He knows what the terror of being pursued for the plight of your life. He knows what a dead body looks like. He knows what it feels like to take a human life. He knows what the smell of AR-15 bullets and flesh feels like. And he knows what it sounds like. He knows what he knows all of that. It's ingrained in him for the rest of his life. That is trauma. So setting aside everything else.
I got emotional when I just come out the hospital for my eye stuff, and I remember I'm sitting in the car and I remember listening to the verdict and I was like, my God. And I remember looking, I was like, just imagine this kid's life for the past 2 years. He's probably sitting there. And this was some wannabe cop. He was in the this cadet program, that cadet program. He's think about this. On the weekend, he's getting graffiti off the high school, right? This is like the kid you want to have next door, because this kid has a good heart. Is probably out there, and probably friends said, hey, let's make a couple of dollars. You want to make 20, 30 bucks? Let's go to the car source and we'll have to stay around, and you can say you're an EMT and bandage people up. And he went out there and did that, right? He went out there and did that. Put us some car fires. We'll all do it together. And then it came into now next thing he's being chased into the car lot. And someone's lunging for his gun. It's literally something like that. But I think the prosecutors in this case are the real. I hate to say criminals, but are the real problem. It's shameful, because I think the worst people in the Rittenhouse case were the prosecutors themselves.
And I've got to say, this is where Barnes said, he was. Oh, you're pixelated, but I hope you can still hear me, Nate.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So Barnes said he was so naive. He was so what's not optimistic, idealistic. He didn't think there would be any risk to him showing up. All he wants to do is put out fires and protect the vast majority from the arsonist, riotous acts of the minority. Administer first aid. He never thought he would get there and he would be the object of the ire. And even when they said the crowd was angry at you and then or confrontational for you, and he said that they were confrontational, not at me. This is where I think the naivety of youth is gone for Rittenhouse in every objective sense. But when he showed up, this was just a kid who says, I'll show up with a gun. I know how to use it. It's big. I'm never going to have to use it, because why would I? The vast majority of the people there are for legit BLM protests. No one's there to riot. No one's there to hurt. If they get hurt, I'll help them. And then he turns into quite literally the prey of the pack of wolves who are hunting him down. And he realizes at that point in time, he's about to die in a real, not a hyperbolic, not like I almost got into a horrible car accident. He was about to die, and he would be dead, but for. And
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's you cannot get over that type of trauma. You can't undermine that type of traumas. You know, physical and psychological. And then after all that shit, he has to go get abused systematically by the system, left, right, and center.
And you saw him on the stand, you know, like that was, to me, it's funny because, you know, I was emotional during OJ, I was emotional during this trial, and it, you know, I feel like I got so emotional about Kyle and what happened was because at the end of the day, seeing the way the prosecutor was acting, it became like, wow, they're really just trying to railroad this kid, right? It didn't become, it wasn't about the facts. Let's just stop being coy. This trial wasn't about the facts. It wasn't about what happened. It wasn't about any type of justice. It was about railroading a kid and to fit a narrative that he was a white nationalist, and let's support let's have the mob, let's please the mob. That's the reason why he was even prosecuted. It was to please the mob. But it's great to see that the mob, because people on that jury, there were black people on that jury, right? There were white, black people. It was a mixed jury. And that mixed jury came back and said, no, you've gone too far. This is not what we're about. This is not who we are as Americans, and rebuke that with not guilty verdicts all the way down the line. And I think that's the victory. That's the victory.
I was actually scared that there was going to be I was scared of everything, and not scared because I have no personal investment in this except for justice. My fear was that they were going to find a compromise verdict, find them guilty on something.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, this was 12 jury members, including jury 54. Who said, we're going to do this unanimously and F the mob. That's what they basically said.
Yes.
We've heard them for the last 3 weeks. F them. We're going to do what we think is right. Even if jury 54, even if I'm right on it, I say she, Jesus, he or she or they did the right thing at the end. I want to bring this one up.
Yeah.
You guys talk too much. That has to be a joke. Mario, thank you. I mean, hey,
you come to a screen. We're going to talk. You know what? I'm going to share my screen after you get this. I want you to play.
I'll just read it. Thanks to both. I came from a family of lawyers. Most condemn this decision. What is happening in the legal profession that political considerations trump reality? You use the word Trump, sir. You are done. Mikhail, I'm joking. Yeah. How can we begin to embrace truth? Go for it.
Oh, no, I was going to answer that super chat. Bring that super chat back up. One thing I want to say,
orange. Hold on, here
is that
boom.
Is one thing I'll say to you, good sir, is that most of the people who I find get this case wrong are always wrong about key facts, right? Are always wrong about key facts. Like I was arguing with somebody today about this, right? At the doctor's office. Oh, they let the mass murderer white supremacists go. I'm like, well, he wasn't a mass murderer and white supremacist. I was like, then I said it in a different way. I said, well, the guy who was chasing them was a convicted blah blah blah. He had blah 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 5 kids, and this is what it looks like. This is him chasing them, lunging for the gun. So as soon as they saw that, then I stop it and I say, at that point in time, do you let the guy lunge and grab your gun, or do you shoot? And every time I stop it at the right spot, they say we shoot. And I say, so he's not guilty. That's essentially what it comes down to, right? That's essentially what it comes down to. Now, obviously, Kyle didn't know the other stuff, but he saw this wild maniac lunging at him and trying to grab his gun, and he fed him some lead, right? Now, and it's some, and I don't think anybody's going to miss Mr. Rosenbaum, but it happened to be what, don't play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
What's the meaning of the different colored pills? I love this question because this means Tiffany Guevara, and I'm not saying this to make fun of you at all. No, but I love the fact that we have new faces. And if I had to guess, Tiffany, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I would say you're between 15 and 23 years old. And I love the question because it means you don't know the Matrix. So it came from the Matrix originally, I guess, red pill and blue pill. And the blue pill was to continue living in your fabricated, synthesized, pacified reality that you thought was reality that was never reality, but it was the reality that you were in a machine led to believe was reality. The red pill was breaking out of the machine, realizing that wakes you up. You were actually a battery in some alien infrastructure where all you were good for was your energy, but they kept you in this state of passivity through the Matrix to allow them to suck your energy out while you believed that this was real and it was fun and everything. You could enjoy steaks. You could enjoy everything they gave you in the Matrix if you took the blue pill. Red pill, coming out of it. Black pill is when you say, holy crap, not only am I out of the Matrix now, but the system itself, the Matrix itself is beyond repair and we need to destroy the system. That's black pill. So that's beyond coming out of the system, realizing it's crap. You got to destroy it. I don't like the black pill. The white pill is, holy crap, there's salvation after the, I don't know if the white pill comes after the black pill or branching off, but the white pill is, we can save the system. We can actually wake people up, take them from the red pill, the blue pill to the red pill, and let them know that we can actually save our humanity, save our existence, save our sanity. And that's the white pill. I don't know that there are any other pills. I've seen other colors, but maybe I'm wrong. So I hope that helps. And thank you very much. And I genuinely, this was not to make fun of anybody. I love the fact that there are people watching who have never watched The Matrix, which means that they're young people watching.
That's a lot of pills. Somebody put that's a lot of pills.
That was I just gave you a lot of pills there. Now, with that said, we're going to go for a little bit more, but I don't want to cut into anybody else's time. Nate.
Oh, let me just share this one thing with you. This is
go
fun.
for it. You bring it up.
This is Matt Orfella, and I'll call him Orphea, but I think it's Orfella, but I call him Matt. So, but he has you guys got to check out his stuff. Matt is
absolutely
phenomenal.
Orfeala.
Yeah,
you'll see when we bring it up.
Oh yeah, it's Orfella. I'm about to bring it up right now. Hold on, let me screen share. But yeah, his stuff is phenomenal. His Rittenhouse stuff is top notch. He does phenomenal breakdown. He's on Jimmy Dore all the time. But his stuff is I'm gonna bring this up for stuff.
Burl Osborne says, Monsieur David Freiheit Esquire, Nate et Barnes aux cheveux. Just so everybody knows, my actual name is not Viva Frei. It is David Freiheit. Freiheit means freedom in German. So with that said, I live 20 miles west of Kyle. Illinois is not Chicago. Donated to his bail. Good point. Thank you, Amy, for reminding me. Self-defense was obvious from day one. I'm so relieved for him. Nate, bond money goes, the bond, he put up, what was it, $2 million for bond?
Yeah,
give or take.
That should go back to him. He went to that's his money. Minus fees and stuff like that.
It'll go to the attorneys, and there's nothing wrong with it going to the attorneys. They deserve it.
They did their job.
They did their job. And I do want to highlight Barnes, as much of a thorn in the side of Richards and Shirafisi as he was, and the other guy, I forget his name now, the security guy. I don't care. Barnes was the thorn in their side to make sure that everything was kept honest and that the eyes of the world were kept on them. And it's not because I'm partnered with Barnes and our locals. Barnes has proven himself to me. He's looked out for me when I didn't know that I need to be looked out for. And he has predicted things that I could have never predicted. Starting with Q, by the way, just like starting with Q potentially being a psyop of distraction from the religion. He was on it. He was on a lot.
He was on it quick. Yeah.
He's been.
He took a lot of flack for that too. He took a lot of flack for that. I remember that too. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm taking flack. Like, dude, I don't even know what Q is at the time. I'm like, I'm sitting up here in Canada. I don't know what Q is. So, anyways, okay, now I'm going to bring it up.
He did. He stood up to that.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So listen to this. This is Matt Orfella.
Rittenhouse went up to the Kenosha area for his job as a lifeguard.
Rittenhouse crossed state lines into a community that was not his.
My grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, and cousins all live in the city of Kenosha.
You know, you've got this young white kid defending the community that he's not even from.
What's your father's name?
Michael Rittenhouse. He lived in Kenosha.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Kyle Rittenhouse was just 17 years old when he drove across state lines to Kenosha, Wisconsin.
The teenager drove from his home in Illinois,
approximately 1 mile to Wisconsin,
across state lines, driving across state borders. He's driving across state lines.
Across the state line, across state lines.
Across state lines, across state lines.
If you look at the Rittenhouse case, he crossed state lines.
Drives up to events.
Across state lines.
Came across state lines.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who traveled across state lines.
From out of state, out of his own state.
Came across state borders. Whenever you have a situation where a 17-year-old is crossing state lines,
white teenager.
He crosses a state line, drives 30 minutes into Kenosha.
Remember, he came across the line.
He crossed state lines.
Cross state lines.
Across state lines. He crossed state lines.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who crossed state lines,
came across
state lines.
Cross state lines.
He went across state lines.
Cross state lines.
Cross state lines. And
cross state lines.
A 17-year-old kid
from out of state. He makes
out of state.
all cross state lines. Cross state lines. Cross state lines.
Across state lines.
Cross state lines. Went over state lines. Drove across state lines. He drove across state. Had his mother drive him across state lines.
Mother
from
didn't
out
drive
of
me
state.
there.
Say the line, Bart.
The teenager traveled across state lines.
Carl Rittenhouse traveled from his home in Illinois across the state line to Wisconsin.
Drove to a different state. Drives up to the state again. Drove across state lines.
The state that he
You say stop it?
Oh, keep going, man. No, keep going.
does not live in. He traveled there from out of state. He crossed state lines, meaning he traveled across state lines. The 17-year-old who crossed state lines. Now, again, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. The 17-year-old from out of state who shows up to Kenosha, Wisconsin. He drove from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kyle Rittenhouse, who again traveled across state lines in a state
Nate,
that
put
he
on
doesn't
pause
even
for 1
live
second.
in. He crossed state lines. He drove across state lines.
Just so everyone first of all, this makes me want to puke because when I went to do
Oh my God.
our appearance on Timcast, by the way, Raketa's on Timcast on Monday, so make sure to watch.
Oh, nice.
When I went to Timcast and then I went to meet Barnes, Robert, for lunch at Harper's Ferry, I crossed state lines. I actually crossed 2 state lines. I think I went from Maryland to West Virginia I think I crossed maybe 3 state lines. Now that I know, God damn it. When you understand, when you live in a big city, you don't cross state lines. And you think that crossing state lines is checking through a goddamn border crossing where you know that it's even happened. When you're living on tri-state, for instance, and you cross 3 states and you don't even know it, and he crossed state lines 1 mile from one state because he lived in the other state. And this is what they ran with because they know that 90% of their viewers don't appreciate what it means to cross state lines when you live on a tri-state in the first place. It's nauseating. It's enraging. It's okay.
I cross state lines every day. I go to Jersey and come back. It's like you cross state lines. Yeah, it's like it's literally I'm closer to Jersey than I am to some places in Manhattan. So it's crazy. But here we go.
This should be enraging. This should be enraging to everybody. Now that you know the truth, that he lived 1 mile from the border. He lived Antioch. I don't know where Antioch is. I just know now that you can literally live in West Virginia, drive through Maryland to go to Virginia. You could, and that would be crossing state lines. And they say it like he got on an international flight, concealed a firearm in his carry-on baggage to commit an assassination in France. I mean, it's so over the top. Okay, but do you want to play through? Because I mean, I'll get enraged. But if you want to keep
we
going,
know that
going.
Kyle Rittenhouse traveled across state lines to go to Kenosha, and he murdered 2 protesters.
Willing to drive across state lines to commit murder. And did anyone help him cross state lines?
His mom didn't drive him. She did not.
Rittenhouse's mother did not drive him to Kenosha.
Rittenhouse's mother drove her son across state lines.
And look at Rittenhouse, who was driven by his mother across state lines. Frankly, she should have been detained for child endangerment.
My mama would never drive either one of us across state lines to go to a freaking riot.
Yeah. This 17-year-old conveyed across state lines by mom.
Rittenhouse in Kenosha.
But get this, they've shown their hand a little bit, right? Because they called them protesters, right? These are all the protesters. This was a protest, but now because Rittenhouse went there, he crossed straight lines to go to a riot. So all of a sudden we go from this was just a protest, we shoot protesters, to now it's a riot. So who's at riots? Usually rioters, but they don't want to tell you that, right? So it's interesting how they use language. When it's Rittenhouse there, he's going to a riot. But before, when Rittenhouse wasn't there, now they're going to a protest.
And by the way, I'm putting Matt Orfila's. I'm gonna just spam his Twitter feed, his Twitter link in the chat, so you can go follow him. He's amazing.
Yeah, I'll put this Twitter link in there too. Let me play this.
Yeah. It's allowing his mom to take him across state lines.
Across state lines. Look, we have a system of laws in the country. There are times where you can defend yourself. It's going to vary from state to state when you can use force to defend your property, but you don't have a right in every state, anywhere in the country, to merely cross state lines.
Say the line, Bart.
Well, first of all, what I love is he used the yay is a generic iMovie sound effect. So that's how you know like street level actual editing, because that is not a sound effect that you have to buy. That's just generic. Now, what was I going to say? Say the line is a great thing. Orfela was wrong. Okay, hold on, bring this back. Oh, what was I going to say? State lines. Gosh darn it. Oh, yes, that's right.
Cross state lines. We cross state lines, Viva.
No, but it's just the reincarnation of power through it. And you remember when Hillary Clinton 2016 was running for president and she fainted, passed out, was hauled off into a truck, and she was just going to power through it. She thought, look at the power through it supercut. It's exactly this. They know the tactics that work on the people. I don't call them ignorant and I don't judge them. They just don't have the time to do what we do day in and day out, because this is what we do day in and day out. This crossing state lines was Hillary Clinton's power through it. And it's atrocious. It's atrocious.
But the good thing is that, because the fans allow us to go deep and to allow and to bring up all this stuff, right? Because I have the time to actually go through this and bring you guys and let you guys know, well, hold on, what they're saying is not the truth. It's funny because if you think about it, TYT and all these other places that have millions of dollars and all these researchers and all this stuff, how could they get the basic facts wrong on a video, right? On a video. So at a point, you know me, Viva, most of the time I'm like, I don't like to get into motive. But right now, it's like, what motive do they have just to lie like this? Because it can't just be we didn't know, right? They literally have researchers to research, right? I would be looking to fire the whole research team. What do you mean? You keep saying he crossed state lines. That had nothing to do with it, right? What the hell is this? You made me look fired, right?
Not just that. There is, it's so nuts because there's nothing to crossing state lines. Even at the time, it's like, oh shit, he crossed state lines. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, why we keep saying this?
Oh, hey Viva and Nate, this process has been educational. I used to be guilty of following media narratives, but Trayvon and Mike B taught me preconceived notions of emotional vulnerability, obscure objectivity. Yes. Trayvon, I was not aware for, so I can't even comment on that. And I've talked about it a few times. Oh, hold on 1 second. I see the rubles from Ebren Anikova. Do you think the prosecutors are dumb enough to try to overturn the verdict based on, quote, jury should not consult dictionaries, media, etc., because the judge allowed jury instructions to be taken home? I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Not guilty verdict is over. Not guilty.
Yeah, how hard is it to overturn a jury acquittal or jury conviction? For
I don't think it can be done. It's like, unless you can show that they were like the jurors themselves were like, compromised in some way. Like I know there was a case in Florida where the jurors were bought off. All right, but that and then they can try you again because you were never in jeopardy the first time. The jurors were paid, bought off. But otherwise than that, something like this is just not going to happen. Yeah, it's it's the purview of the jury. It went to the jury. You got to really show that the prosecutor was just. And I don't think the prosecutor wants anybody looking into this case, right? Because it's going to bring up more things. Like even if they get into what about avoidance perjury?
Dapper Dave, I don't think I can find your super chat, and we've unfortunately gone to the point where I cannot manage chat anymore, even in slow mode. So, Dapper, I apologize, but I know your name, Dapper. I know you've been around for a long time, so thank you very much.
How many people get? Wow, 11,000 people here watching us scream into the microphones here.
Well, no, we were over 15,000 only on YouTube, and that's not including Rumble, but Rumble.com, which is a wonderful place. Did the state lines matter except for Manic?
No.
That's another good you mother effers. Oh. They know damn well what they're doing. People repeat state lines, and because I did it, I don't even know what's the implication of state lines. That the firearm might have been illegal. The firearm that might have been illegal in, let's just say, Illinois was not legal in Wisconsin, but that's not the case even.
Yeah. It's what? It's the weird part about it is that I think people need to just stop and think. Remember the lefts on the left, a lot of the things that they would say was something like, well, he shouldn't have been in the first place, right? Because it was a curfew. Now that we know the curfew order was illegal, so he had a legal right to be there just like anybody else, right? There was no curfew, right? Then it was, well, he had an illegal gun. Now we know he didn't have an illegal gun. His gun was legal. Matter of fact, the guy he shot had an illegal gun.
Well, that's
So-
what I was gonna say. Hey,
Right?
did Grosskreutz? By the way, where's Grosskreutz from? Does anyone know in the chat right off the bat? Where
No,
was Grosskreutz
he's from Wisconsin. He's from
so he-
Wisconsin,
he-
but he lives
he
farther
didn't
away than Kyle, though. He lives farther away than Kyle. He didn't
But
cross
he
state
didn't
lines,
cross
but he
state
lives
lines,
farther
man.
away than Kyle. Yeah.
He didn't
Kyle lives
cross
like
state
15 minutes
lines.
away. He lives like an hour away, something like that.
But he didn't cross state lines. But it was an
He didn't
illegal
cross state
concealed carry of a Glock, which has a scary name. I've been told, by the way, that my preconceived notion of the Glock came from Die Hard 2, and they're not actually undetectable by metal detectors. These CNN lies. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
let's-
listen,
let's-
Viva, I got to go because my wife is mad because I got to put the kids up. The kids got to go to bed at 11. So not 11. I mean 9. So I got to
Don't
now
worry,
go
right.
put them to bed. So
Don't worry, I have the similar problem. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to field some of these super chats. So I'm not going to say our proper goodbyes name, but I'll text you later after we both
yeah,
put our kids to bed.
we'll be right back. And listen, guys, but I do want to say this to the chat. You know, today wasn't a great day for Kyle Rittenhouse at all, to be honest with you. It was because, you know, this was the end of an era, but it was a great day for the justice system in general. You had prosecutors who were corrupt. You had prosecutors who were lying. You had prosecutors who were supporting perjury. Yes, this happened, and we saw it. We saw the raw nastiness of it, of someone trying to get a conviction, not getting justice, trying to get a conviction. But we saw the true power of the American system of government. It's power to the people, because it became regular people sitting in that jury room who had to make the decision: are we going to let this shit go, or are we going to do what's right? And those people in that jury room saw that video, saw that evidence, said, we're going to do what's right. We know the city, right? They were under threat. They were cheering outside. We're going to blow the city up. It's going to be fire. It's going to be this. Under that immense pressure, people were chanting on the steps of the courthouse. They did the right thing. They did the right thing. They did not succumb to the pressure. So no matter what you think about what's going on in this country, at the end of the day, it's the citizenry. It's us. It's us that control this thing. And these citizens, these 12 men and women, had enough. And they rebuked this prosecution and said, this was wrong. Let this kid go home. And that's where we're at today.
All right, man. Nate, we'll say our proper goodbyes later tonight when I text you after we put our respective kids to bed. But go. Thank you very much. And I'm sticking around.
All right.
I'm
Take care, brother.
going to go into my wife's academy. All right. Have a good night, Nate.
I'll see you later, man.
Yeah. Now, everybody, I feel so alone, but I feel so romantic as well. I'm going to stick around for a bit, and I'm going to field some of the super chats and also give you some of my white pill moment. Actually, is not just that the jury stood up for what's right, and they stood up for what's right in the system. They took to the media creating the pressure for them to cave, and they took to the mob, and they said, no, we're going to do what we think is right. And I've said this before. Half of the time, the media's, it's David Mamet's expression, every fear hides a wish. And the media saying, we're fearful that there'll be riots if the jury acquits. We're fearful that they'll get doxxed and threatened if they acquit. We're fearful that the judge will come under attack if he intervenes to facilitate an acquittal. When they say we're fearful, what they're basically saying is, we hope it happens. And I guess it's a variation of a dog whistle to some extent, but all of these psychological tricks, they exist in various forms and different variations. But when the media says we're fearful that there's going to be riots in Kenosha, they're saying we hope it happens. We want to instill that fear in the jury, so they, in advance of what's not going to materialize, succumb to the pressure and the fear of what we are suggesting might materialize if they don't. My white pill moment, and I hope I'm not wrong, I don't think there are going to be meaningful riots from this. I don't think there were ever going to be meaningful riots for this, because I think with the beautiful disinfecting powers of the sun, anybody who's watched this trial for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, would know that anybody rioting this acquittal of a verdict themselves were the enemy to begin with. The same enemy, incidentally, that probably put this into effect, these sequence of events into effect in the first place. I did not really appreciate the degree to which nobody that I saw in any video footage of the events of that night were there for legitimate civil rights reasons. None of them that I saw were there for legitimate BLM in its purest sense reasons. They were there to wreak havoc havoc, and I can't do what Ricada does. I have to stick to what I'm good at. I can't do impersonations. I feel guilty doing them. They were there to wreak havoc from the first minute. And the white pill moment is that you had a jury saying, we're not going to let the media induce us into fear to get the response that they want through fomenting the fear, through creating the fear. Like I think back to that show, House of Cards, with Kevin Spacey, before everything, where he, banged his hands on the table and says, we are the terror, or we make the terror. I blew it. You know what I mean? Where he says, we're the government. We make the fear. We make the terror. This is the media. This is what they do. They fabricate false narratives. They promote lies, and then they fabricate and induce fear to compel the behavior that they wanted from the beginning. So that's the true white pill moment. Have a good one, Nate. Love you, bro. Okay, sorry. So I'm a little behind, but now I'm going to try to get to some super chats. I'm going to try to get to some thoughts that I had that I didn't get to. Binger finger is now a reference for bad trigger discipline. And that's an amazing thing, by the way, because that image, and if you go look it up, Binger holding the firearm is now a demonetizable image in videos. At least it was a week ago. Maybe now that it's going to become politically correct to pick on Binger, they'll change the rules. But that was a problematic image to include in videos as of last week. And I don't want to say the media is the enemy of the people, but there really is no other way of putting it. Please make a clip of this final statement from Nate so I can share it. Drew, well, first of all, I'll try, but everyone else, feel free to rip clips and post them out there for social media, because there's a lot of highlights that I can't produce on the channel with any meaningful effect. So cut, post to Twitter, post to wherever. I don't know who that is. I don't want to get into trouble for bringing up something that has implications that I don't appreciate. Got to give credit. Got to give 54 credit where it's due. Assuming she was a holdout, she ended up doing the right thing instead of forcing a hung jury or a compromise. And I agree, by the way, ASIC. I agree that I still believe she was. Let me just bring myself back into my stream, people, because I seem to have stroked myself out of the stream. Got to give 54 credit. Yes. And I'm not going to mess around anymore. No, you see, that's what happens. I try to scroll the super chats on the top, and then I just took myself out of my own stream. I'm back, people. I'm back. Can't get some of the chats here, but yeah, guys, what about my state line? He crossed state lines, people. He crossed state lines. The media lies. And then the thing is that you don't see the narrative in real time because most people don't watch all news outlets at the same time in stereo. And so you only watch one. You watch your trusted Fox Daily out of New York, or you watch your MSNBC out of Washington. And you don't see in tandem pulling the same lines quite literally over and over again. The power through it was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And then seeing people that I know and trust in terms of their intelligence, instinctively, reflexively repeating, well, she just had to power through it. And you see it. And now people repeat across state lines. And then you ask them, so what? So what? What does that even mean? They don't even know what it means. They don't have the basic knowledge to know what it means. They just know across state lines is bad, guilty, Rittenhouse killer. 17-year-old kid who showed up to scrub off spray paint with surgical gloves to administer first aid, put out fires. And I will stand by my original assessment. When they said in that jury questionnaire 5 to put down the fire extinguisher, that implied a preconceived notion. To put down was a deliberate act, to then pick up. Put down, pick up, because you wanted to go with the narrative that brandishing the firearm, which incidentally was never one of the crimes ever accused of Rittenhouse. He never was accused of having brandished a firearm. But regardless, put down the fire extinguisher, pick up the gun, makes him guilty by intent. I feel just like when I finish watching a good show, I need a new trial. Sorry, I'm shallow. Well, we're gonna have more good trials. Don Lemon's trial apparently is not going to be broadcast because it's federal, and I just hope that the media and the judiciary and the corrupt prosecution does not decide to, hey boys, we better not air too many trials because the aggregate knowledge of the internet will pick apart our filthy, disgusting, manipulative lies overnight, whether it's through Matt Orfela, whether it's through Darth Crypto, whether it's through Nick Rekieta and the panel, the invoice of lawyers who can dissect the truth and can tell people what to look into, because we all don't have the time in the day. We can be instructed, plant the seeds where you need to look, what you need to look for, and if you find something interesting, blast it for the world to see. And between the network of influencers, of people with big followings, you get that information to the eyes that need to see it. The audience-driven analysis from you and the Rekieta panel is the future of media. I agree. Stodgy old dinosaur media is circling the drain. I agree. And it is undoubtedly why in every jurisdiction now you see the government making an active effort to control, censor, and control. Duck, dodge, dip, dive, and duck. It's why you see the government trying to limit the freedom of the internet because, yeah, you know what the biggest problem of the internet is? Not that conspiracy theories or baseless ideas or ill-founded ideas can establish their roots. It's so that the truth can prevail. I could take the most obvious example, which is uncontroversial because I think there's good questions to be raised either way. Moon landing. You write people off. If they say you didn't land on the moon, you write them off. Shut their channels down, yada, yada, yada. You know what the real issue is? Not that people might start to have discussion about the moon landing. It's that you use that as a pretext to say, talking about a certain Maestro and Osiris coming from a certain Blue Hand lab in somewhere else, shut it down. Shut it down. Don't let them talk about it. And we'll use the clearest, I say clearest examples. We'll use the most stereotypical examples to say why it's dangerous if certain theories get their roots in the ground. You know what? The truth establishes deeper roots than lies. For anybody who's never rock climbed before, by the way, whenever you want to tie up your anchor, and if you're doing it traditional anchors and not bolts and rocks, you want to go with son of a bee sting. You want to go with deciduous trees because deciduous trees have a longer root. Coniferous trees have a wider root, but it's shallow. And they're sort of easier to pull over, which is why you'll notice the next time you go through a forest that the trees that tend to get uprooted and they pull up a huge swath of dirt are coniferous trees, pine trees, like evergreen trees. They have a broader but shallower root base. Deciduous trees have a deep root that goes down, and those are the ones you want to anchor to. So that's an analogy. It's kind of beautiful. Okay. This message. Okay, we're gonna get some. I love it. The internet's good for truth and good for humor. So while I just wind this down with some random meanderings, the Rittenhouse acquittal it's justice and common sense prevailing after systematic abuse. And a lot of people are going to say the process was the punishment. And I agree. I agree because this Rittenhouse in particular, and I don't want to get into the McMichaels. I know what I feel about it. I know how other people feel. Doesn't matter because that's not what I'm discussing. The Rittenhouse was clear cut from beginning to end. I just had no idea how overtly egregious the prosecutorial overreach misconduct was from day one. And I've seen it. I won't say that I've been black-pilled because I may have been black-pilled at one point, but now I'm white-pilled because there were 115,000 people yesterday on Rekieta stream watching this. There were 170,000 on Crowder. People are starting to see the systemic corruption of the system, and that is how it changes. It doesn't change from the top down. It changes from the bottom up. And the biggest, most devastating waves start from the bottom of the ocean and work their way up, and not from the top down. And the people are at the bottom and they start the waves. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I just mean the people are the foundation of society. The politicians are the ivory towers at the top. And that's how the change starts. And I think we're seeing it. And we just need to maintain control of the open sources for information to ensure that people get their red pill so they can get their white pill, even if they have to transition through the black pill. I'm going to get a few more. Viva doesn't need a great case to make a great case. The true GOAT. And now I know what that means. Greatest of all time. we're doing good. I'm not the greatest of all time. I will give that credit to a lot of other people, but I'm loving what I'm doing, and I'm loving the fact that I'm able to do what I'm doing. And for that, I'm gonna thank everyone. Jeremy Anthony, always great cases being aired. Pick one. It's convenient cases being aired. This one, had this been a conviction, this would have been a condemnation of a swath of society. But God bless that it went the way it did. And I say that as I'm a religious person. I'm not a religious person, but thank God it went the way it did, because it was a win-win in some sense for the lying media. Now it's white supremacy winning. White supremacy winning. This case had nothing to do with white supremacy from day one. What it had to do with was the media racializing the event to promote this bullcrap narrative that divides citizens among each other. And that is, I think, the white pill at the end of the day is people are coming together with knowledge. Remember the 19th of November. Okay, not bad. That's a good V for Vendetta and the original Lord Falk. What was his name? Guy Fawkes. Prosecution cannot be brought again if not for the jury verdict, but the judge granted dismissal with prejudice. We'll tackle this question with Barnes on Sunday, because we are going to talk about this on Sunday. Not for the entire night, because I want to talk about the January 6th QAnon shaman, who I think is being done dirtier to some extent than Rittenhouse. I mean, to some extent in Rittenhouse, we always said from the beginning, for right or for wrong, he killed two people. Qualify it the way you want. He did nonetheless take the lives of two people. He evaporated the bicep of another person. But that dude Grosskreutz is lucky to be alive. Instead of suing, he should be counting his lucky stars, because he knew in his heart he knows what he was going to do. He knows, and he knows what he was up to. But regardless, I'm not lecturing Grosskreutz. What was I about to say? Oh, QAnon shaman. This guy, even by the freaking Department of, I want to call them the Department of Injustice, but I don't want to look that political. Even by the Department of Justice's own indictment of the QAnon shaman, I should call him his name. I forgot his name now. I can't. It's Jacob Angeli is his real name. I forgot the other name. Even by the Department of Justice's own indictment documents court file, he's not even alleged to have broken a window. He's not even alleged to have committed any act of violence against any officer. He's not alleged to have committed any act of violence anywhere, other than the fact that his American flag was on a post that had a sharp tip. And other than the fact that he went in and sat in the dais, he dared approach the dais of Lord Government to insult the government. That was his greatest crime, even if the crown, not the crown, the government would have been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt all of the elements that they said they could have. He was not accused of anything violent. He was detained since his arrest. He's going to serve 41 months after having confessed, after Big Brother forced Winston into confessing, pleading for his life, pulling his own teeth out of his face, seeing the weathered, decrepit mirror of what he used to be. He confesses and begs for the mercy of the court, and the judge says, "This, I've never heard anything greater. This is what Martin Luther King would have said. This is what God," and I'm not making this up, by the way. This is the dialogue they had. You'll go watch the vlog after you finish this stream if you haven't had enough Viva Frei for a Friday night. After all of that, the judge says, in my 34 years on the bench, I've never heard anything so glorious, so splendid. You're a changed man, but nothing changes the atrociousness of what you did. And I can't, in good conscience, sentence you to anything less than 41, can I bleep this out, effing months. Time served, yes. I don't know if it counts for twice. I don't know how that works. Fine. 41 months. That's nearly 4 years. 12, 24, 36. That's 3.5 years. That's 3.5 years of a healthy person's life, of his young life, or I don't even care, his or her young life. That's 3.5 years. That is 10% if you live to 30. That's 5% of a normal person's life if you live to full expectancy. That is theft of existence for a non-violent crime. Okay, now I'm black pilling myself. Let's go back to some red pills, white pills. Thank you, and Robert, your whole group, for the excellent journalism through this. Thank you. I don't consider myself a journalist. I don't break news. I just analyze what is out there. I say that to cover my tushy, because I don't break news. People send me stuff, and I will not break stuff. I'm not looking for glory. And I cannot vet things. So I'm not looking for that. I just want to understand, and I want to help other people understand. But in times of madness, even that itself is revolutionary. Yeah, Black Rifle Coffee should apologize to Kyle. We'll see if they do it, but I think they've burnt any bridge they had with any semblance of authenticity or honestness with their crowd. I saw a Copenhagen. I want to bring up the orange one. Let me see if I can find this. If I can't find it, I'm just going to go. Oh, there we go. Boom shakalaka. This is not $40,000, people. I don't know what currency that is. I just know that I see Thomas Caldwell 74 a lot. Viva, do you think that Nancy Pelosi's laptop still missing could have anything to do with the Q shaman's harsh sentence? Maybe he refused to roll over on. I think, or your coverage of the Rittenhouse trial was classy. Be safe. Thank you. I think if there were anything truly devastating on Pelosi's laptop, it would have come out by now. It might have been buried by the media in the same way Hunter Biden's laptop was buried. It might be buried the same way Ashley Biden's diary was buried. They might have gone after other entities ancillary to distract from the devastation of that information. They might have tried to discredit the sources. So with this, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but my mind is open because I do genuinely believe there are no such thing as conspiracy theories anymore. There are only theories which are either ill-founded, unproven, or to be determined in due course. Because Lord knows, every conspiracy theory that we have been told was a conspiracy theory has turned out to be absolute lies. Russiagate was a lie. It was a lie that they knew at the time. Let's see a supercut of talking about Trump-Russia collusion. And I'm not saying this as a conspiracy theorist partisan hack. I followed it from day one. I read the Mueller report. I read the Kleinsmith prosecution. I read the Michael Flynn. I read the Roger Stone. I've read it in detail so that I can synthesize information that most people are not going to get on their own. It was fabricated from day one. And now the Danchenko indictment confirms that not only was it fabricated, the only people working with the Russians were the Hillary Clinton campaign. And this is not political. It's just truth, people. So deal with it if you call it political. The origins of the virus. Conspiracy theory last year, mainstream media today. Fauci denying financing, funding, gain-of-function research. Conspiracy theory, reality. Anyhow, it's conspiracy theory of yesterday is reality of today. Kyle was interviewed by Tucker, and it airs Monday. I'm expecting his ratings to hit an all-time high. I'd be surprised if he did the interview right now. If he did it, he would air it. I mean, if he did it and is going to wait till Monday, that is not the decision I would make in terms of catching the eyeballs when they're ready. So, but I don't deny it. I thought the interview was Monday, but if they've already aired it and they're going to wait till Monday, that might be a mistake because the reality of Monday might not be the reality of today. I would love to have Kyle on for a sidebar. I mean, that would be glorious. But I do think that if anyone deserves it first, it is Rekieta, because he's done the Lord's work for this, and you know it's been amazing. The Rekieta coverage, the organic growth that we have created for this genre of YouTube has been something that we've brought in. Hundreds of thousands of people who now know that there are lawyers on YouTube that you can watch for commentary, insight. You can disagree with them. You can call them hacks. You can call them, know nothing Canucks who talk out of their car and look homeless. But nonetheless, you're getting information. Okay, and 2 minutes, people. 2 minutes, and then we're going to call it a hard end. I haven't eaten dinner yet. But 3.5 years for demonstrating while Republican. That is what it was, by the way. Because I know that charge had carried a maximum of 20 years. The harshest one that they went with, which was count 2. I know it carries 20 years max. That's if he committed, the egregious infractions. And this is not political. And I don't like having to go back to the times when I said what happened with Breonna Taylor was not justifiable in my opinion. Okay, and I said with Willie Nash, not justifiable in my opinion. With Blake, it was misrepresentation by the media. With the McMichaels, I know what I felt, and I know the flack that I got from viewers who think that don't know anything. When I agree, I'm smart. When I disagree, I don't know anything. But QAnon shaman, it's a travesty. It is weaponizing the political system so that people know, don't F with us, because if you do, we will go after you while simultaneously ignoring everyone else. I want to know what those the 2 Molotov cocktail throwing lawyers out of New York get by sentence. I checked it up the other day, and I don't think they've been sentenced yet. I want to know what they get, because it's not going to be good. It's not going to be comparable. All right. With that said, people, let's do this. We got one more member, and I'm going to end it by 2 hours, not to be rude, just so it makes it easier for Eric Hunley, who you should follow. Eric Hunley, Untold American Stories. It makes it easier for him to rip the audio so I can put it on podcast, which this will be. Kevin Hall, welcome. Everyone just tuning in, what do you make of the possibility of the Department of Justice bringing federal charges against Kyle? Screenshotted. I'm going to ask Robert Barnes. We're going to discuss it Sunday night. I know what I think he thinks because he knows more than me and I don't know anything, but we'll see. Everybody, this has been a white pill day. We are in a movement now that is bigger than any of us. So let's keep doing it, keep sharing the information, keep spreading optimism and not pessimism. The white pills, not the black pills. I've gone over 2 hours, but whatever. Everybody, with that said, thank you very much for all of the support. I'm sorry I can't bring up all the super chats, but I do thank you for the support. It allows me to actually do this. And this is the biggest blessing on earth, is to be able to do something you love doing day in and day out. Can't ask for more. So with that said, Sunday night live stream with Robert Barnes. We're going to get back to, we had George Gammon scheduled for Wednesday. We're going to do him. I don't know if we do him next Wednesday, but he's going to come back. It would not have been fair to George Gammon to do a non-Rittenhouse live stream when everybody had questions. But everyone else, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, peeps, and good night. Peace.